Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. And let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now our first story comes from a deleted user who says, am I the asshole here for refusing to give my ex full access to my life just because we co-parent? Now, there is a couple of warnings on this one of controlling behavior and stalking and harassment, so if you do want to skip the story, please feel free to do so. Timestamps are always down in the description and along the timeline below. Thank you. It starts. I, 25 female, have a 6-month-old baby with my ex, 24 male, and we've been trying to co-parent since we split a few months ago. But now he's saying I'm being an arsehole for not telling him everything I do when the baby isn't even with me. We were together from high school, 2015, up until recently. Our breakup happened shortly after I gave birth, when I found out he had been cheating with multiple women. His excuse? That I wasn't being sexual enough, postpartum, and he had a high libido. Yeah, that was enough for me to walk away. Since then, I've been rebuilding my life. I got more involved in my church, formed new friendships, and started feeling like myself again for the first time in a while. I've also done everything I can to keep things calm and respectful for the sake of our baby. But now he's making it an issue that I don't share details about my personal life with him. He says I should be more transparent and that it's important for co-parenting. He wants to know who I'm hanging out with, what I'm doing, who my new friends are, even if I'm just out while he has the baby. His reasoning? He tells me about what he's doing, so I should do the same. But here's the thing. I've never asked him for any of that information. He voluntarily tells me I'm about to hang out with this girl or I've been seeing someone new. Even when our child is not in his care at the time. It's his personal time, and I've told him I don't need or want those updates. Yet now he's acting like because he shares that info with me, I owe him the same level of openness, even though I've never requested it and it's unrelated to our child. He's also been following some of my new friends on social media and asking me questions about them. My account is private, so I don't know how he's even finding them. I suspect he's using a burner account or he's viewing my church's page who post pictures of me and the people I hang out with at times. I had to ask them to stop posting me. We have a photography team that takes pictures during service or after service and post them online for media purposes. For a while, because I believe he was using those posts to find my friends and follow them. He's never reached out to any of them, but the whole thing feels really creepy and invasive. It's crossing a boundary for me. I've talked to some friends about this and their opinions are mixed. Some say he has a point, that we should be transparent with each other since we share a child. Others think he's overstepping and that isn't part of normal co-parenting. Especially since our child hasn't met any of these people and I'm not dating anyone right now. Even my mum is siding with him. She's liked him since we were together in high school, and anytime we argued, she tended to take his side and ask what I did wrong. Now she's saying I should be open about who I'm hanging out with to better co-parent. That makes me question myself even more. I'm not trying to be an arsehole or difficult. I believe in healthy boundaries. If someone's going to be around my child, I'll share that. But just living my life and seeing friends when my baby isn't with me, I don't think I owe him a play-by-play. So now I'm wondering, am I the arsehole here for keeping parts of my life private from my child's father when it doesn't involve our child? Creepy stalker-ass behavior we're seeing here. This isn't about co-parenting, this is him trying to control what you're doing. He's trying to make you jealous by sharing information. Oh, I've got a new girl, trying to make you jealous. He probably hasn't got no one, and then he wants to know about your life. He wants to know who's in your life. It's all about that control. I'd be changing all your passwords if I was you as well, just in case he has access to any of your accounts. You know, he's already cheated on you, demanding info about your life when it has nothing to do with the co-parenting. He's cyber stalking her friends and your social circles. And don't listen to your mum either, she's talking absolute bullshit. Knock this shit on the head as soon as you can, and you know, if you think he's going to get a bit wild or something like that, have some sort of support with you at the same time. But OP edits the post and says, wow, I genuinely didn't expect this post to get attention it has. I know everyone says that, but seriously, I thought maybe 4 people would comment. Thank you so much to everyone who's taken the time to give advice or even just offer support. I've been reading through everything and it's given me a lot to think about. A lot of people have mentioned co-parenting apps, which I honestly didn't know much about before, but I'll definitely be looking into that. Having a structured and more monitored way to communicate feels like something I really need at this point. There's no court order in place right now, but I've been heavily considering it. Lately, he's been more and more insistent about knowing the details of my personal life, especially if he thinks I'm spending time with male friends. He doesn't just ask casually, he demands to know who I'm with, even when the baby's not involved at all. I personally don't feel like I owe him that kind of access, but it's become a consistent pressure, and I'm starting to feel like court might be the only way to establish clear boundaries. Some people have asked why my mum seems to be on his side. I touched on this in a comment, but for context, my mum has always been very male-centered. She tends to take the man's side in most situations. She did the same thing to my sister during her marriage issues. When I told her about the cheating, her response was, "Well, men don't just cheat for no reason. What weren't you doing?" Oh, fucking hell's bells. She's never really supported me in situations like this. I also think a lot of it stems from her own past. My dad cheated on her a lot and she stayed with him. She genuinely sees cheating as something normal that couples should just work through. So no, she wasn't supportive of me leaving my ex, and she still says I should have given him more attention during that time. On top of that, some people mention the possibility that he's only sharing info about the girls he sees to make me jealous, and honestly, 1000% believe that. I never asked him about what he's doing when the baby's not with him, but he offers up these updates like, "Oh, I'm hanging out with this girl," or "Oh, I've been seeing someone." I think he expected me to react, but I really don't care, and I think the fact that I'm not reacting is what's frustrating him. So now he's trying to flip the script and demand transparency from me. Also, some of you suspect my mum might be feeding him info about me, and I hate to say it, but I wouldn't be surprised. She watches my baby sometimes when I go to church events or other things like that, and her and my ex are still Facebook friends, and I believe she still has his number. She does bring him up constantly, even saying stuff like, "He's way cuter than the guy you said was cute," and things like that. So yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if she's told him I've been out or who I might be with. I'm taking a step back from her and what I tell her, and taking a step back from having her watch my child for the time being. Anyway, thanks again for all the insight. I really appreciate it. It's helped me feel a lot less crazy for being uncomfortable with all of this. Dearie me, it's getting worse. It's like the mum is just as bad, or maybe even worse than the ex. The victim blaming about the cheating, very likely feeding him information about her social life, and almost like playing wing woman to the man who hurt her daughter. It's like, fuck's sake. OP's kid growing up around that mum, if she's going to continue to look after the child, and her toxic behavior and her thoughts about cheating and all this kind of stuff. You know, would you want your kid around that? Kids are like sponges, right? But the first commenter said to OP, "Not the arsehole, he's just trying to control you. He doesn't get to do that anymore." Another commenter says this, "He's abusive, and it's so good that you're not with him anymore. Even the fact that he offers information is part of his controlling and manipulative behavior. I told you this, you need to do the same. I need to know who you're hanging out with so I know my child is safe, etc. Do not fall for that. Limit your contact with him only to matters that concern your son. I believe there are apps for that. Finally, look out for yourself. Once you enforce your boundaries, he may become more abusive. Unfortunately, your mum is not your ally, but you need a support network who you can trust with this. Best of luck." OP says, "I definitely agree with what you said. It's like he's purposely trying to make me jealous by telling me about all these women he's hanging out with. I agree he may not handle it well when I start seeing someone new. Today he insisted I was seeing someone new and demanded to know his name. He also wanted to know my guy friends' names because he doesn't trust them, thinking they have bad intentions and that guys and girls can't just be friends." Another commenter says, "Not the arsehole, he's being controlling. He forgot that when you start screwing around behind someone's back and they leave you because you're a worthless sack of shit, you don't get to have access to their lives anymore. Keep your life separate. I'd be asking him to stop sharing so much of his life with you. He's toxic. It's tough that you need to co-parent, but keep yourself as separate as possible. Your mother is a fool. If she shares details of your life with your ex, then stop sharing so much with your mother, who should be on your team. Why isn't she? Opie says honestly, she's always been like this, very male-centered. It's something I only recently started to really piece together. She's the type who will say, men don't cheat for no reason, and ask what I did wrong, even when I was the one being cheated on. She did the same thing with my sister too, during her own issues, so I usually don't tell her much anymore. I'm kind of pulling back from those convos just for my own sanity. It sucks, but it is what it is. Commenter says, just to play devil's advocate here for a moment. Your post paints your ex possessive and intrusive, asking about your life and trying to make you jealous by telling you about his life and his new dates in the guise of openness. Here's the thing. You do share a child, and as much as it pains you listening to your ex about who he is dating, knowing who might have access to your kid through your husband is something that you need to get nosy about. Your ex is asking about your life in so much as it concerns who has access to his kid. That is a good thing. That would show that he is a good dad, that he is worried about his kid when his kid isn't with him, as all good parents do. Have a real talk with him and set boundaries, not just for each other, but for who you both bring around your kid. Really helps if you have a third party there to mediate. If he is a good dad, this can go well. If he's just a terrible person, well now, you have been the reasonable person, you have a witness that he's just doing this to make you uncomfortable, and he's a jerk. OP responds saying, I appreciate the perspective, and I do agree that knowing who's around your child is valid when it actually involves the child. But just to clarify, I feel like this part keeps getting overlooked. The issue isn't him asking about people who are around your kid. He asks about who I'm with when the child isn't even in my care. Like for example, it'll be a Friday night, our baby is with him, and he's texting me to ask who I'm with, where I am, and how I know them. That has nothing to do with co-parenting, that's just invasive in my opinion. If this was solely about who was physically around our child, I could at least understand that being a discussion point. But he doesn't stop at a name or even a general heads up. He wants to know who they are, where I met them, how long I've known them, if they have an Instagram, what church they go to, etc. It's not concern, it's a full-on interrogation. And for the record, I've never brought anyone around our child that he hasn't met or wouldn't be safe around. I'm extremely cautious about that. What makes this all feel even more off is that he's taken the names of people I've casually mentioned or who appear in church posts with me and found them and followed them on social media, sometimes from what I assume is a burner account, since my page is private. That goes beyond just being a good dad. That's invasive. That's boundary crossing. So no one is saying that he shouldn't care about his child's safety, but there's a big difference between healthy boundaries in co-parenting and using the kid as an excuse to keep tabs on your ex's personal life. I'm open to having a real conversation about boundaries when it comes to introducing future partners to our child. I agree that's important, but this feels like something else entirely. So OP came in with what they titled their mini update and said hello again. I didn't expect my original post to get the kind of attention it did, but I just wanted to post a quick update and say thank you to everyone who took the time to comment, give feedback, and share resources. This whole situation has been overwhelming, and your support really gave me the confidence to start seeing things more clearly. Now, on to the update. Unfortunately, things have taken a turn. During our most recent drop-off, my child's father started demanding once again that I tell him where I go, who I'm with, and who I hang out with in my personal time, even when our child isn't with me. I stood my ground and told him very plainly that I'm not interested in hearing about his personal life, and I'm not obligated to share mine either, unless there's a conversation directly involving our child. I'm not engaging. He then responded by saying, I tried to cut this conversation off beforehand to no avail, that if I have friends over at my apartment, even if it's just a hangout or if I attend church events, that he wants to be physically present during those moments to monitor who's around our child. He then said if I don't start sharing more about what I do and who I'm with, he's going to pursue full legal and physical custody. I've never really been through the legal system before, but I'm going to reach out to a caseworker or a family attorney this coming week. A lot of people had follow-up questions or offered suggestions, so I just wanted to respond to a few things that came up repeatedly. I've started looking into parenting apps and legal steps. That was something I hadn't really considered before or really knew much about, but after how things have gone so far, I know it's necessary. For those asking about my mum, yeah, that dynamic has always been hard. She's sided with him since high school. Even when I told her about the cheating, she responded with, well, men don't cheat for no reason. It's been tough realizing she's not the kind of support system I need, but I'm distancing myself emotionally and being more careful with what I share. As for the jealousy and manipulation theory, a lot of people have pointed out that he might be trying to make me jealous by constantly bringing up other women, and I agree. I also think he's been using this so-called honesty and straightforwardness as a guise to get information about my personal life. This does feel manipulative because he's creating a one-sided demand for transparency. No, we don't have a custody agreement in place yet, but I'm taking steps to speak with a caseworker or attorney. Some suspect my mum might be giving him info, and honestly, I wouldn't doubt it. She and my ex are still friends on Facebook. There have been instances where he knows things that weren't posted publicly, but were known by her. Again, thank you all for helping me feel seen and less crazy in all of this. If anyone has experience navigating custody arrangements or parenting apps, please share. Also, if you've ever had to juggle expenses from situations like this, going to court or seeking legal representation, any advice is greatly appreciated. The top commenter on this one said, your mom is telling him everything. Limit her access to your social media and put her on an information diet. Speak to the caseworker to make custody situation official to stop him kidnapping your kid. Look into the parenting app and consider a restraining order as his behavior keeps escalating. Also, are you going out on dates or seeing someone just now? As if this is the case and you told your mum, that will mean he will probably escalate to stalking you as well. Good luck. Hope you get a positive outcome. Opie says, so I'm not dating or seeing someone right now, but my ex seems to think I am. I have no idea why he thinks that, but he's convinced that I'm seeing someone. Which I think personally that makes it even more scary. He's getting paranoid now about who Opie's dating. He doesn't like it, making up scenarios in his head, stalking already. It just sounds like he's getting more and more dangerous. But another commenter says, if you're in a one-party state where only one of you needs to know you're recording, start recording phone calls and in-person interactions. If you have a dash cam in your car, you can have that running while you talk with him. Just make sure the audio is being picked up and stand where the camera can see both of you while getting the audio as well. I believe that dashcam video doesn't require the second party's consent, and it's a safety feature for your vehicle, but double check that with an attorney, as each state has different views on those laws. Try to keep all your communications to text, voicemails, and emails, that way it's documented. If you can't and you're not in a one-party state, open each conversation with, I'm recording this call for my own purposes. If you do not consent, please end this conversation and take it to email or text instead. That way you've covered by second party consent, and him and your mum both have the option to end the conversation there. Then they can choose to text or email instead. In other words, flip the narrative on them. They want to manipulate, you do the same. Whatever you do, do not engage with anger. My ex-husband would constantly do and say things to cause me to get angry with him. That can be used against you in court. If they're doing everything they can to push you to get angry with them, end all communication with a very calm response of, I'm not going to continue this conversation in this manner. If you cannot be civil, I'm hanging up, I'm walking away and leaving. Whichever fits the situation. Essentially, you are a favorite toy that is refusing to play the game his way. So he's trying to regain control over you, and he's using your mum as the control factor. He wants you to fall in line and believes your mum has the power to make you want to do what he wants. Don't give in to it. Stay strong, get an attorney, and document everything with a vengeance. OP adds, thank you so much for this. I actually completely forgot I have a dashcam in my car, and after reviewing some of the footage this morning, I discovered something really unsettling. My ex has been parking outside my apartment building multiple times this past week. I never noticed this until now, which again is quite unsettling. I also really appreciate the reminder about recording laws. I'm in a one-party consent state, so moving forward I'm going to start recording phone calls and in-person interactions. I'm also transitioning as much communication as possible to text and email to keep a clear paper trail, especially since he often twists conversations later on. That part you said about staying calm really resonated. He absolutely tries to get a rise out of me, and it's becoming clearer that it's all about control. I've been reminding myself to treat our interactions like business, short, direct, and only about our child. And you're totally right about my mum too. I've blocked her on Facebook and will have limited contact with her going forward. Thank you again, your advice was really helpful. OP also adds, I do believe he's trying to provoke a reaction from me. Back when we were together, he'd do the same thing, accusing me of things, just to get under my skin. I remember how worked up I used to get trying to defend myself over and over, even though I had nothing to hide. Now that we're not together, it feels like he's still using those same tactics. Hoping I'll react emotionally so he can turn the narrative against me. It's taken me a while, but I'm learning how important it is not to play into it. I stopped defending myself when there's nothing to defend, and I try to stay as neutral and as calm as possible during our exchanges. It's frustrating for sure, but no, losing my cool is exactly what he wants. If anything, seeing this behavior continue now that we're broken up just confirms how necessary it is to start drawing firmer boundaries. The patterns haven't changed, only now I'm more aware, and I'm not letting myself get pulled into the chaos. Commodore says to OP, dropping off at the police station is good advice, OP. It puts him on notice. OP says our recent drop-off was at a police station. I felt that would be best since he's been acting so irrationally lately. Commodore says, you're the asshole for not putting your mum on an info diet as soon as you knew she took your ex's side. She's absolutely providing him with information, so stop it. I do love how Redditors rallied to get you to see the danger and advise what to do. Good luck, OP. OP says to clarify, I've never given my mother direct information. When she is caring for my child, I may mention I'm going to a church event or out with friends. The first time I noticed a potential leak of information, I stopped telling her even that tiny bit of information. I've never given her specific details. I believe she gets most of my information and who I'm hanging out with from my Facebook account, which I didn't consider until recently. She is blocked and I no longer leave my child in her care. Commodore says a judge will laugh his ass right out of court if he tries that, and will probably make him pay your lawyer. OP says I did some digging into the judge who usually handles these cases in my county, and from everything I've seen and even witnessed firsthand, he tends to rule in favor of the father, even when there's clear evidence of abuse or unsafe behavior. There were multiple cases where women had proof of stalking, violence, or harassment, and he still denied them restraining orders or VPOs, saying they needed to work it out for the child's sake. I was even in court with a friend last year, and I watched him deny almost everyone's request for protection, even women in tears with solid evidence. So I'm genuinely nervous because I don't think this judge is as reasonable as most people would expect. And yeah, you're absolutely right about my mum. She's officially on an info diet starting today. I'm also updating all my privacy settings because I can't afford for anything to leak back to him. It went from, the ex being super annoying and, still stalkerish behavior at the start to this full-blown stalking, sitting outside our house in the car watching it. It's escalating and escalating. It's absolutely terrifying. And OP talking about that judge situation as well is, I don't know, it's fucking awful. A court judge who's telling victims of stalking to work it out for the child's sake, seeing behavior like this to work it out for the child's sake is just, that's how people end up dead. And it's absolutely terrifying. I don't know how the system works in terms of, especially in the US, but is there no way to request a different judge based on the info that OP knows already? Again, I don't know the ins and outs of it, so I'm just throwing stuff out there, but I'll be looking into that if it's possible at all. I really hope that OP gets that lawyer, keeps recording and trusting her instincts and what she's seeing, because it's absolutely terrifying. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's have another story. And for our second story, it's one of our own waffles from the r/Mark narrations asking an am I the arsehole question. No update is yet, but this is future guessing who says, am I the arsehole for wanting to go completely no contact with my father-in-law because the choices he's made? Hello everyone, long time listener of Mark's, much love, and I need some non-biased advice, so I figured why not come to my favorite YouTuber's very own subreddit. But before I get into it, I wanted to give you a few warnings. One, is going to be a bit lengthy because of needed context from a backstory. And two, there will be mentions of domestic violence, cheating, and a significant age gap. Oh, and obligatory on mobile, so sorry if formatting is wonky. Onto the story. My female 31 and my husband male 31 have been married for 6 years and together for a total of 13. His father, male 58, has always been a bit of an off character. can't stay faithful to a partner if someone was holding a firearm to his head, extremely blunt and forward the works. But seeing as we didn't see him more than major holidays, I was willing to let it go because honestly, none of that was ever directed at me or anyone I cared about. Enter who we'll call N, female 28. N and my husband met in 2014 when he started working at the Bullseye department store. They got on really well and I was quickly introduced and the three of us became close very fast. N had an issue with housing and my parents, who my husband and I lived with at the time, offered her a room in their home. For 5 years after, we all lived together, again at my parents', until one day my husband finally popped the question. Understandably so, my parents did not want my husband and I living with them when we both had full-time jobs and could feasibly afford to live on our own after we got married, despite living in one of the more expensive states in the US. However, because we were moving out, N was asked to leave as well because, in my mother's words, why would they ask their future son-in-law and daughter to leave and not their friend? N took this as a slight and, unbeknownst to us, began to resent my husband and I. Context: my parents charged none of us rent. We simply paid for our own groceries and helped clean around the house, despite all of us offering multiple times. We moved in together. Myself, husband, N's girlfriend, N's brother, and his girlfriend, to save cash and keep all of our monthly expenses lower. What came next was a 5-month shitstorm that resulted in the end of several friendships. As it turns out, not only did N resent my husband and I, but she also was physically and emotionally abusive towards her girlfriend. We didn't know this originally because she never really brought her to my parents' house and spent a majority of her time at her girlfriend's family home. One night while my husband was working and overnight, I heard some banging noises and what could only be described as choking sounds coming from the room next to ours. I immediately got up and started to bang on the door. Turns out I just saved her girlfriend's life because N was in the process of actively strangling her. Cops were called but no charges were filed because of girlfriend's fear of N. All of that combined with so many other different incidents that I won't describe in detail because this post is already too long. Purposeful destruction of our property, trying to sabotage our wedding and honeymoon, and trying to get my cat to run away, to name a few. We moved out into our own apartment after being married a month and never spoke to N again. Which brings us to the present day. Father-in-law calls me out of the blue to tell me he needed to talk to me. I'm currently balancing a full-time job, full-time medical school, and I have a 3-year-old daughter, so we scheduled a time to chat. And what he told me not only disgusted me, but pissed me off beyond belief. Apparently for the past 6 years, we got married in 2019, he's kept in contact with N, meeting for lunch and dinner occasionally and texted consistently. My father-in-law recently broke up with his fiancée of 5 years, and his first move as a bachelor was to jump into bed with N, and they're now dating. I'm upset for multiple reasons. 1, he knows in depth what N did to me, my husband, and our ex-girlfriend, who's now a very close friend of ours. 2, the age gap. She's currently 28 years old and he's 58. That's 30 goddamn years. To me, it feels predatory because when they met, she was roughly 19. I ended that call fairly quickly after clearly expressing everything I just mentioned. I then called my husband and apparently they'd spoken already, and he had asked to tell me himself, but my father-in-law said no. Immediately, I expressed how I don't want my father-in-law around my daughter unsupervised due to what I perceive as predatory behavior from my father-in-law, to which my husband immediately agreed. Where we disagree, however, is completely cutting ties. Personally, I feel betrayed on both my husband's behalf and my own. Like I said, his dad knows what N did to the two of us and actively chose to maintain a relationship with her and now date her. I want my daughter nowhere near N, and now my father-in-law by association, and frankly I just want him out of our lives. My husband wants to go low contact based solely on the fact that father-in-law has helped us out financially several times and feels that we owe him that much despite the shit situation. So guys, gals, and non-binary pals of Mark's subreddit, am I the arsehole for wanting to go no contact with my father-in-law? Absolutely not the arsehole for me. You're being a good parent. Full stop. That's all that really needs to be said, but your father-in-law made these choices. He made the choice himself to date someone who literally was strangling another person you know, a friend of yours, in your home. He chose to date that person, and thinking logically in his head, he must know the consequences of that action. You know, we're not talking about grey area, complicated family dynamics here. It's safety, and when your child's involved, safety is priority. It's as simple as that. And you're not overreacting in this situation. You're protecting your kid from someone, the grandfather, who's proven that he's not a great judge about dangerous people. But normal skill says, so you owe him putting your child/children's health and safety at risk because he loaned you money. Did you promise him the life of your firstborn for some gold? If this sounds ridiculous, it should. It's as ridiculous as your husband's reasoning. You don't put your children's safety at risk. What is the point of going low contact when you're already low contact? At this point, it's no contact. He's dating someone who is an abuser. He knows she is. Cut ties, or you're letting that crazy back into not just your lives, but your child's. Opie responded saying I basically said the same thing to him. You barely see him as it is, and per his behavior and choices, he's proven himself as a gross human being, at least to me. We're going to talk more when I get home from work tonight. We communicate better in person anyway, so I think it'll be more productive. Normal replied saying in person is always better. He sounds gross. This is not the model of a man you want anywhere near your child. You're definitely not the arsehole here. I'm glad you're both taking it seriously. See a lot of stories on here where they don't. Opie replied again saying, oh yeah, when it comes to my baby girl, I don't fuck around. That's my whole life in a 3-foot package. Ain't nothing gonna happen to her that I can prevent on my watch. Nice. Sis for Cookie 79 says not the arsehole. Don't ever accept help from him again. I would also ask, dear husband, how much time your father-in-law bought by helping you out. Does husband think that father-in-law bought access to your young daughter forever? It doesn't matter if they helped in the past. You have to do what you need to protect yourselves and especially your daughter. Red Reaper says not the arsehole. This is a straight up shitstorm waiting to happen. Your own sanity, no contact is going to be the best option. Because you do not want to be caught in the crossfire if N starts her shenanigans up again. Not to mention the possibility of her poisoning your kid and father-in-law against you. Opie says, I am seriously so afraid of seeing her again. I just plain don't want to. My parents are furious. Talked to my dad on my drive home and they've already banned him from their house. My mother-in-law tried to tell me about this side of him for years and I stupidly brushed it off because A, they had a nasty divorce, and B, her and I have had problems in the past, and I take everything she says with a grain of salt. But what are your thoughts on Opie's situation? Be interesting if you get an update on that. I would be very interested in your conversation after with your husband to see where this goes. Wouldn't mind updating us, of course. But just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories. And if you want to share your own story, r/Mark Narrations over there, feel free to get involved. Totally up to you. And just a huge thank you for being here, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care, and much love.
Yeah, man, I remember being so naive when life was good, weather and palm trees. Back in the day, you were everything I need. But then along came a time when you crushed my dreams. Oh yeah, you played me like a fool when you made me believe that the line between love wasn't thick enough to read. Oh yeah, you see we in despair, crime everywhere. You're selling false hope cause you just don't care. Nah, you just don't care. Nah, you just don't care.